It's crazy to think about, but one of the best animated movies of all time, Frozen, was actually almost drastically different than what we saw in theaters. Elsa was originally named the Snow Queen. It was going to be the villain of the movie. Also, Disney actually tried to make this movie over 70 years ago, believe it or not. What is going on, Disney fans, and welcome to another episode of Disney Cuts with your host, as always, K-Mac Time, your one-stop shop for all things Disney, cartoons, video games, and all things nerdy. Thanks again for watching. If you guys could all do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more Disney goodness, it'd be greatly appreciated. But with that out of the way, let's jump right in. Now, the creators of Frozen were originally going to make a much different, much darker film than the one we got in theaters. It was also going to be traditionally animated in 2D instead of the 3D CGI, which we saw. But this was scrapped after the Princess and the Frog movie that Disney did prior didn't do well enough in the box office. So in order to speed up and cut costs of production, it was changed to CGI. But luckily, we still do have a few hand-drawn early concept arts of these characters, and my god, are they so cool. They look beautiful. It would have been very interesting to see these characters hand-drawn animation style, but again, the CGI look worked out great for the film anyway, and it went on to be a major success.
Only one crazy enough to be out in this storm is you, dear. You and this fellow. Woohoo!
If you guys didn't already know, Frozen was actually based off of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Snow Queen, which was published in 1844 and is a fairy tale that is a struggle of good and evil and follows the young girl named Gerda and her interactions with the Snow Queen. But did you know that Walt Disney actually tried to adapt this fairy tale as early as the 1930s, but him and his staff of writers could never get the storyline just right, and it was put on the back burner for decades, ultimately re-emerging around 2009-2010 when Disney started working on the idea again. But the script at the time was nothing like what we got in theaters.
And who's the funky-looking donkey over there?
That's Sven?
Uh-huh. And who's the reindeer?
A little while back, ABC ran a documentary called The Story of Frozen, making a Disney animated classic, in which the creators of the films sat down and discussed the massive process of making the movie, and they revealed a ton of interesting info about the early stages of development for the film and its characters. First off, early sketches show that Anna and Elsa weren't originally going to be related. Anna was a peasant who asked the evil Snow Queen to freeze her broken heart, and Elsa's character actually looked completely different. She originally had light blue skin, short spiky blue hair, and this weasel-like fur. In the documentary, Jennifer Lee, who wrote the screenplay and directed the film, was quoted as saying Elsa was going to be the complete antagonist. They kept calling her villain, but there came a point where we said, we can't use that word anymore. You care about someone who's been forced to hide who they are. Elsa's not a villain. She just makes some bad choices because she's in a very difficult situation. That's very interesting to see how they changed her model character design, completely 180'd it from being a villain to being someone who's just confused or not in a difficult situation. One of the driving forces behind this major overhaul to her character came from the songwriter, husband and wife duo Robert Lopez and Kristen Andersen Lopez, who were working on a song to go with the character. Andersen said, quote, "We were writing a villain song and we started getting into the headspace of what you'd feel like if you were that isolated. From there, Let It Go was conceived, and they knew that they had to rewrite the film script completely to accommodate the change for Elsa's character and her complete redesign."
Never bothered me anyway.
It was at this time the writers were trying to rework the character to make the audience care more about them. Then someone suggested that they become sisters, and the writers ran with the idea. Elsa became the yin to Anna's yang as opposed to the bad guy, and the movie started to take shape. Ultimately, the film ended up being one of the biggest and most profitable films in history, grossing over $1.5 billion and becoming an icon in the world of animation. I mean, they really nailed it with their character redesigns and the songwriting, but it's really crazy to think of what just might have been had they not had these redesigns, had they stuck with the 2D animation style. This would have been a completely different movie, different look, different style, different writing, darker themes. Could have been all these things, could have been very possible, but I'd like to go on record and say that I'm happy they changed it. I'm happy they came out the way that it did. It's obviously one of the best movies of all time, animation-wise. One of my favorite Disney movies of all time as well. Cannot wait for the sequel, but we'll have to wait and see how that one comes out. I'm sure it's going to be great. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you guys think that they should have made these changes? Do you guys think they should have stuck with some of the other things? Do you think they did a good job here? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Anyway, that's all I have for today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. If you guys did, do me a massive, massive favor. Smash that like button and subscribe for more Disney content in your sub boxes daily. Also, be sure to check out my previous episodes of Disney Cuts, where I go in depth on the first Toy Story and how it's almost a much darker and scary movie itself. But until next time, guys, remember that it's always K-Mac time somewhere. Until then, guys, take it easy and peace out.
Jump right in.
When in jump.